about to save a ton of money by installing a new dishwasher on our own. Between spending a couple of hours DIYing this entire process and finding a better deal than the big box stores, you're gonna save tons of money. In this case today, we saved $600 within a few hours just by doing this ourselves. There's three things you need in a dishwasher. You've got power to it, you've got a water supply, and you've got a water drain. Let me show you how each of those works, and you can totally do this one yourself. It requires some pretty minimal tools. Let's take a look under here. We've got our hot water supply line right here. This white pipe is going into the dishwasher itself. And so I can actually just turn that off righty-tighty. So I'm gonna give it a quarter turn like that, and now it's off. This particular setup in ours does not have power in the under-sink cabinet. It's actually behind the dishwasher itself. Yours may be a little bit different, so you gotta take into consideration what that looks like. But the gist of it is, to get the old one out, we want to remove the power, the water supply, and the drain. And the reason I'm taking this one out right now before we even get a new dishwasher is because this appliance exchange place that we go to, they actually will give you an additional warranty on the newer one if you bring them in your old one, and they'll take care of it for you, so you don't have to try to figure out how to take that to the dump or whatever. Okay, first thing we'll do is we'll use our adjustable wrench to loosen this up. Again, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. And that's as the way you're looking at it. So in this case, I want to turn this direction to loosen this up. I'm going to be very careful because I want to make sure I'm only loosening the nut. There we go. And get this thing detached. And after a couple turns, it should be pretty easy. So that's nice and slack now. And then I'm going to use my adjustables to grab onto this guy right here. So I'll tighten this up, or squeeze this I mean, to loosen it, and then it should just rock right off. And this can be a little nasty in here. Yep, there's a little chunky nastiness, and that's just because it's taking all the junk from your dishes and putting it into the drain. At least in my case, since there's no electrical inside here, that was it. We just have those two things. And now we can start working on removing the dishwasher itself. Okay, to do that, here just got a couple of screws up top. So as we open the dishwasher, you can see I've got one right here and one right here, and this one's already, yeah, this one's loose and not doing what it's supposed to do. They're usually pretty shallow screws because they're only meant to go in less than 3/4 of an inch. Goes out, and then yeah, these guys are usually just on tabs like that, and then that can come out. There they go. Then we're gonna go look at the bottom. So they often will have, way down on the floor here, they'll have a couple of little tabs, and it just depends. Sometimes they have them, sometimes they don't. Now that just wants to come right out. And actually, let's just find out. I can just give this a pull. Oh, okay. That answers that. The whole thing just pops right out. Sometimes there are screws at the bottom, so you want to make sure to check that first. This one doesn't have any. And so, just pull this guy out. There should be enough slack to at least check. And I'm curious. Yeah, nothing's moved in here yet, so we've got plenty of slack in there. All right. So, pretty interesting. But inside here, we've got a Romex coming up. One's going into the box for the disposal that's got a flip switch on it, and then it's coming back out and right here into the dishwasher. So we'll take a look at that in a second. This is our drain that goes into the disposal, and this is our hot water supply. So I'm going to pull those out since they're all disconnected at this point anyway, and then I'm also going to start by disconnecting our power from over here on this side. You can see our Romex cable goes right into this box, which we can access. That's why we have this little access point up front. So we can actually take the front panel off and access the wiring for this thing right under here. So let's do that. Before I do that, I'm just gonna feed my drain and hot water out so we can otherwise disconnect this thing. Just pushing those out through the hole. There we go. Okay, so with that out and that out, we now should have access to the electrical. Every one of these is a little different. This one's just got a little box
that we need to pop the lid off of. So now that we see where that's going to be, we need to flip off the power to this so that there's nothing going on. So usually you're gonna either have a dedicated circuit in your circuit breaker panel just for the dishwasher, or it might be combined with another appliance in the kitchen, like maybe the disposal, for example. So let's go take a look at our panel and see what we've got. From previous videos, I've actually made some charts on mine to make sure everything's really easy right there. Dishwasher and garbage disposal. Okay, so that's this one here. So I'm just gonna flick that off, make sure we're good, and now we should be able to safely work on the electrical. So this is the screw we need to remove to open up the junction box here. And this is one of the more difficult ones because it's a T20, it's a Torx. And those are pretty common to find. If you don't have one, you might need to pick that up. They don't cost much, but assuming I can reach it here. There we go, just pop that out. And then you have access to your electrical. I'm gonna test the electrical now before we pull anything off or engage with these wires at all. But we've got our neutrals and our hots and our grounds. With the power off, we can now disconnect these, and I always like to work as if it were live. So we're only gonna make connection to one item at a time. We're never gonna put these two in contact with one another. So touching one, like the neutral here, for example, by itself isn't gonna hurt you, as long as you're not touching that and something else. So I'm gonna take that off. There's the original one. I'm gonna cap the old one back up so that that's not loose. Then we're gonna do the same thing on the hot and just take this one out. And then we just have our ground, which, oh, look at that. Oh yeah, it is, okay. It is going to our ground screw right down there. So we need to remove that screw, or loosen it anyway. And then our ground is wrapped around it. So we take that off, and that's it. So there is our wiring coming from the source, from the circuit breaker panel. And so we want to take this whole thing off and feed it right back through the compressor fitting here. Now this is typically a one-way thing, so you may need to grab the pliers here, the channel locks, and squeeze those to pop that whole thing out. And there it goes. All right, so now we can feed the whole thing out, and our dishwasher is disconnected. All right, so with that, the whole dishwasher can just slide on its feet, and then we can move this thing out. Good chance to clean under there as well, of course. And the only thing that we have hanging out is the drain and the water supply line. So we can strap these on here. Oops. And then take this thing to the store and get rid of it while we get the new one, which is great. And be sure to check out your local classifieds, Facebook Marketplace, things like that. You're likely to find something like this in your area, or at the very least, just look for a good deal on something that's lightly used and you can save yourself a ton of money. And you can see here that they have quite a selection at the appliance exchange outlet, and this is after they were a little bit picked over because we showed up on a Saturday afternoon. All of their prices were totally reasonable, especially when you compare that to buying new at Home Depot here, for example, which has reasonable prices, but they are a lot more than at a used appliance center. The reason we were at Home Depot was to pick up the dishwasher installation kit that includes the hoses and everything else you might need, but sometimes you need to buy a separate kit that has the tabs and the installation screws and things like that. So be sure to double check what you need specifically. The kit we picked up was 30 bucks. Now you guys may have noticed our dog Pip here helping out with the dishwasher install. She's always around for all of our projects. She's getting pretty old, and so we've actually, about a month ago, we switched her over to a new diet with the help of the farmer's dog. Now the farmer's dog provides fresh food for our dog, and it's got healthy ingredients that help her to actually get a balanced diet, which is something that with the kibble she was having, she wasn't really used to. And we were honestly pretty worried because she's a pretty picky eater. She doesn't like much. And so we actually started using this and mixing it in with the kibble as prescribed by the farmer's dog. And it's been pretty cool to see. So she's actually really loving this stuff, and she's eating a lot of types of food that she doesn't normally eat because they make it actually taste good and because it's fresh. So they ship everything frozen to us in a box, and then we get to keep this in the refrigerator and then use this little container here for her to be able to enjoy it and keep it fresh in the fridge. So she's been enjoying this for the last month, and we've noticed that not only is she eating healthier foods that she's enjoying, but she's actually anxious to eat. So it's been fun to see her actually get excited about her food. And they also include some little snap sticks treats here that are made with real beef and apples and healthy ingredients and things like that. And so this is the first time we've seen her actually get excited about eating, and with her older age, she's almost 13, it feels good to make sure that she's actually getting a good diet. So if you want to check out Farmer's Dog and get some fresh food going for your pet, then be sure to check out the QR code that you can see on screen right here, or you can use the links in the description, and you can get started with the Farmer's Dog today. All right, we've got our new dishwasher here, and this one was only 250 bucks, largely because there's a little bit of an indent down there, and you have to be looking at it at just the right angle to even see it. Otherwise, it's in perfect condition. So first thing we got to do is check out our electrical. So I'm going to lay this on its back, and so we have access to this right here. And let's swap out bits, and then see if we can take a look at the electrical in here. So I'll set these guys aside for now. You can see everything still has film on it. It's never been used. And there's our box. So this one, much easier. This is how most of them are nowadays. There's just a Phillips to open that up. And then now we can pop that off and have access to the electrical wires in here. And you can see by looking underneath here, there's two channels. You've got a channel coming up one side for the electrical that will run the Romex cable up through. And then here on the other side, you have a channel for your water supply. So we'll make sure that that water supply comes from the back right up to the front. And then we've got our elbow connector right here. And since we just bought our kit, our dishwasher kit, this one's meant so we don't need any of the parts in here really. We can just thread this directly on one end and the other end right into the supply line that we have under the sink. So this is as simple as it gets. So I think what I'll do is I'll actually connect this up right now and get that on there, and then I'll connect up our wiring in just a second. Take our drain hose here. I'm gonna feed this one right on through the hole. And there's our 6 feet of hose in through that same hole. Yep. There we go. I ended up connecting 2 different hoses together. So one from the installation kit that had a 6-foot hose, and then I used the additional hose that I had and connected my fittings, and that's from the one that I had kept and was dusty and I'd had for honestly like 15 or 20 years probably, and knew that one day I would need it. If you're ever unsure, it might be better to buy the longer installation kit with the longer hose just in case. Our next step here is just to tighten all of these securely in place. We want a good snug seal. So there's that one. And a lot of times that'll take either 2 adjustable wrenches, or if you need to, you can use channel locks, pliers, whatever you've got handy will usually work. There we go. We should be seated on the O-rings and the rubber washers in all the ways here. That means I can give myself a little slack here on both sides. Some under the sink and some under the dishwasher. So if you look, under here, I'm just tightening that back on. Just the reverse of what we did in the first place. I always recommend being extra careful with these. Don't go crazy with it, because these fixtures can be finicky and they're not like super strong. So just be gentle as you tighten things in. Try to secure everything in place while you do that. As long as it makes a good connection with that rubber seal in there, that's good. And I think that's probably sufficient. We'll find out in a minute when we turn it on, and we'll see if we have to tighten anything any further. Next, feed this right through the bottom here. There's that channel that we showed earlier that goes right up to the front. So now we've got power. So now we're ready to slide this guy into place. Just slide it in. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reach under here while I'm doing this and make sure I've got, the power here and the water supply. And you see there's plenty of slack under here because there's those channels underneath to make it easy to work with. So then as I push this in, I should be able to slide right in. I still have to put a clip under here, but I want to test fit this. Make sure everything looks good width-wise and height-wise. Okay, now there's a kind of a gap right up here, up at the top. And so I think I want to extend the feet and have this push up further. That way I won't have to see that or worry about that gap. And this also gives us a good chance to install our clips. So these are actually the same clips from the old one, and you can also just buy a kit. But if you look right up here, we've got a nice little spot where we can install the brackets. So there's just a bracket mark right there, and then a bracket mark over here. So if we put those in, then when we slide it in and open the door, we'll be able to thread those right up through. And most likely what I'm gonna end up doing is breaking off this part right here at the score line, because we don't really need the whole bracket, we just need that first little bit right there. Let's raise those feet up. We need about a 1/2 inch to form a good seal. So these guys right here, I'm gonna loosen that. And they are shaped like a hex there, so I can put this on here if we need to. But if you don't need to, it's easier just to do it by hand. And we'll give ourselves that extra space. These are pretty coarsely threaded, so it doesn't take a lot of threads, a lot of turns to do the job. And I'm gonna come over to the other side and just do the same thing. So once we've got the first 2 feet, this one's a little bit different. It's just got a singular foot in the back here, and it has a little gear system where you use a hex key to adjust it to get it to go up or down. So we will do that and just adjust this, get this out to approximately the same height as the front feet. Now we're ready to slide this thing in. We'll make sure that the electrical sits under this channel and that the water supply line sits in this channel here. So if they're doing their thing, then this should be all set. So now we're gonna make sure everything's in its place. Start with our water supply line. And that was already just where it needs to be. That was good. Electrical. There we go. And then we should be okay. Now it's definitely fitting a lot more snug with that back foot where it needs to be. Ooh, this is looking good. Now that we've got this guy in, one of the tips that makes it a lot easier is make sure that as you're pushing the unit back in, you're pulling on the drain hose underneath so you don't get a kink or a little circle or a loop in there. And then once it's in place like this, you can see my little tabs have a little extra space here. So I'm gonna actually lift the feet up a little with just an adjustable wrench under here. It's pretty easy to do right from where we are. And I can just rotate those in and then keep an eye on this as I go. And that's pretty good. And I'm gonna do the other side. Oops, I got that stuck in there. There we go. Same thing over here. We can just adjust the height to where it's perfectly snug inside the bay. So now as we push that in, that'll give us just enough room to secure it in. But before we do that, we're gonna get everything wired up. So we have plenty of extra leeway here with our supply line. And then right down here, this is the same thing you saw earlier. We have our elbow right here that we're gonna connect. So I'm gonna thread that on until it bottoms out, and then we'll tighten it to make sure that it's a good fit. Just want a good seal. It feels good. So that's on there now. That should be bottomed out. And then the only thing we have left on this side here on the front is to wire up our electrical. And this should all be still off from when we took care of it earlier. And one thing we have to do here is to bring this in through the hole in the box here. There's one, there's our ground. I'm leaving the wire nuts on just as an extra safety precaution, and we'll need them in just a minute anyway. There we go. And with that, we should have our electrical wiring coming in. Since I have the old strain relief, I'm just gonna pop that back on here. May as well use it, since this one didn't come with one for some reason. And what that does is helps to make sure we don't get any fraying of the jacket or the wires on that little metal hole. Lastly, up front here, we're just gonna wire each item up. The green is already connected to the ground in the box itself, so it's grounded on the metal, which is great. So I'm gonna take our 2 hots, or the black ones. And when you're connecting stranded to solid like this, I prefer to use Wagos, honestly, but if you do use a wire nut like these guys here, you want to make sure that the stranded actually sticks out a little further than the solid, because it's going to tend to shorten as you twist it up. And now all I have to do is push all of our wires back into the box. I'm going to grab our little cover here, fit all of these in the box like that. There we go. Now that's all secured in there. Next, we just need to put on the front cover like so. Okay. Next up, we need to secure it up top. That's what we have these two screws here for. So we're going to make sure this gets pushed all the way back, and then we'll push it or thread it in. Last step is we need to connect the drain under here. Okay, so this guy looks good. So we're gonna take this off, fit it over. I need to loosen it a bit. There we go. Okay, then we tighten it in place. All right, good secure seal on there. We've just installed the dishwasher. That was that. Now again, we'll test everything to make sure there's no issues with water leaking or anything. First step is gonna be to just turn the hot water on here. There we go. Okay, that's on. So when it's parallel to the line, you're good. I hear nothing, I see nothing. I heard it turn on, so that's good. I heard it pressurize. This feels dry as a bone. Now we're gonna check underneath as well, because the next place it connects is behind, and then also right in front. So we're just gonna keep an eye out here. All right, so our connection right here looks good. Nothing at all, that's great. And that means our ones back there are probably good too, but we'll leave this off for a minute just to make sure. And then next, we can turn the power back onto this, and we should be all set. But before we do that, I have to go through the satisfying process of removing all this film. So we'll start on the side here, and let's get rid of this. Oh yeah. Beautiful. There goes all that. All right, time to power it on. Okay, all lit up. And everything's good there. Okay, waters are flowing. And this is where I'm gonna double check underneath. Make sure everything looks good. So far, so good. I think we've got ourselves a newly installed functioning dishwasher. That saved us hundreds and hundreds of dollars by doing it that way. Probably took about a half hour to uninstall it, and I don't know, maybe a half hour, 45 minutes to install the new one, and got rid of the old one in the process, and saved us so much money versus the install and buying new. So 2 ways we saved a ton of money on that. All right, just like that, we've got our new dishwasher in. We've got 2 things left to do now. One, we got to put our sign on here. We love this thing. I'll put links to one of these guys in the description below if you want to check it out. We use this all the time just to let the kids know there's no excuse. Dirty dishes, put them in. If it's clean, time to empty it. So that's pretty handy. We've been using that one for years and we love it. If you're interested in making sure everything stays nice and organized under your sinks and in your cabinets, I have a whole video showing how we build these pretty easily, and they're super cheap to make. And boy, do they make a big difference with being able to utilize all of the space in your kitchen. So you can check that video out right up here. I'm Nils with Learn to DIY. Thanks for watching.